Our next speaker is Brian, who will be speaking on focus. Brian.
Are you ever watching something on TV and it's just so bad that you're glad you have the remote? Get this thing off! Thank God for the remote sometimes, right? Have you ever been in a situation, you're at a party or something, and you wish you had a remote for the person talking to you? Maybe you've been on the other side of this advice. Hey Brian, it's nice to meet you. You have any kids? No kids yet? You should really have some kids. Kids are amazing. They are unbelievable. They're a life-changing situation. You will not regret having kids. Do not wait too long. You might not be able to have kids later. You should have them. Maybe at the same party you've been, you got this advice. Hey Brian, it's nice to meet you. I have 3 kids. The perfect number of kids to have is 0. Kids are such a pain. Oh my God, you're lucky you don't have any kids. You should not have kids. But we all get advice, right? And it comes at us, and we have to think about what to do with it. The course has many things in Toastmasters. I've learned a lesson about advice and what to do with it that I can apply to my personal life. And you'll get some advice on this advice today. But first I'll tell you a little story. When I had the chance a couple of weeks ago to compete in the area contest, as I was practicing for the speech, maybe you remember that it was a great situation. I was getting so much feedback. And the feedback from this group is unbelievable, right? It's just, every point is so perfect. So I wrote down everything, and I came back the next week, and I gave the speech. But I was a little more nervous because I had so much stuff to remember. Then I came back the next week with more feedback, and I had even more stuff to think about. And it turns out the feedback and the quality of my speech, as Ken would say, they're inversely related. My quality was plummeting as the more feedback I got. So my confidence was a little shaken. It's like, oh man, I'm going into this thing, I can't think straight. I went to see Tim compete in this contest, which, man, if you didn't get to see Tim, he nailed it that night. But I saw another younger guy get up who had only been with Toastmasters for about 6 months. He was not that polished and didn't have all the tools and techniques down, the storytelling, but he was confident, something that stuck out. And when they were interviewing him, they asked him, what's something that you've learned from Toastmasters? So I'm sitting there in the audience, and I'm at my low of confidence, getting ready to speak tomorrow at the contest. And he said, oh, one other thing I learned from Toastmasters is that feedback is a buffet table. I can decide what I want to pick out. The thing about Toastmasters is not that you don't get great feedback. You get too much good feedback. You get so much good feedback, you don't know what to think about. And you get up here and you try to think about the 20 things that you heard to improve your speech. And you end up doing none of them well. So how important is focus? When they asked Warren Buffett what number 1 thing for being successful was, what do you think he said? You guys are smart. He said focus. And it's because you can only do so many things well. So we don't actually have a remote control for the advice. It comes all at us. But we do have the ability to decide what we want to focus on. And that's the beauty. What I like to do, or what I learned from Prez, is write down all of the evaluation that you get during the meeting. We get so much from the round table. And then the next week, pick just a couple of things that I can focus on. So for a long time it was my voice, my vocal variety. But if I tried to think about my vocal variety, at the same time I tried to think about staging, as I tried to think about everything else, I stood there and talked like this. So one thing at a time was the most important thing. But what's nice about writing everything down is that you have it to go back on. And I started to realize that there were a few things I kept getting called out on that I should probably pick for my next speech to focus on. And I think this can be applied also to your day-to-day life. You get so much good advice. It's not that having kids is not good advice, or not having kids is not good advice. But what do you want to pick? You want to listen to the different advice from your boss, advice from coworkers, and then you get to choose what you want to focus on. And in that way, feedback is truly